let's get the Atlanta point of view of the loss of Ronald Acuña Jr.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. I've been a baseball podcast for a long, long time. Easy for you to say. And we are now at the 1/3 mark of my 6th season here as the host of Locked On MLB. And this season, not only am I dropping 5 episodes of Locked On MLB a week, but I'm also doing 5 episodes of Locked On A's. That's right. You get 10 episodes of your pal Sully if you're subscribing to the right places, whether it's on YouTube or whether you're following us at Locked On MLB on Twitter or whatever it's called now, and Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter. As you see there, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. If you're listening to any of the shows that I'm hosting and you're posting on social media, put that hashtag Everyday Sully. It lets us know who's there and where and why. Jake Mastroianni of Locked On Braves, friend of the podcast, is going to be a guest in segments 2 and 3, where we are going to be talking about the Ronald Acuña injury and what it means for the Braves and what it means for Braves fans and everything like that. Just a reminder, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Let's go quickly to the trivia question. The trivia question was, when the National League awarded expansion teams to both San Diego and to Montreal in 1968 to begin the 1969 season, several New York papers erroneously announced the wrong city. What was the city that was announced had a major league team? Stephen Colatera said Denver. Not a bad guess. Denver's been kicking around but for a long time, but that's not correct. John Murphy Jr. guessed Nashville. Nope, still not right. You have to go all the way to Switzerland. That's not where they were having the erroneously said an expansion team, but that's who got the answer. My buddy Marcel in Switzerland says it was Buffalo. He said, I can't remember where I read this. It might have been Big Hair and Plastic Grass, great Dan Epstein book. Yes, it was announced that Buffalo got a major league team, but that was incorrect. It was actually Montreal. Maybe they should have done Buffalo. I don't know. Buffalo for a while looked like a big major league team. And if you are a fan of Locked On MLB and you're in Buffalo, guess what? The Locked On MLB train is heading to Buffalo. I'm going to be in Buffalo in a couple of weeks because, you know, a man's got to live. You got to live a little bit. And I'm going to be seeing a Buffalo Bisons game. I'm heading to Cooperstown. I'm going to do a bunch of things baseball related in upstate New York. And so if you happen to be in Buffalo, let me know. Let me know. I'm going to see the Buffalo Bisons play the Worcester Red Sox, and that should be pretty fun. Let's just quickly go over some of the things that happened in baseball. We are now officially past Memorial Day. And if you go follow me at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, I'm going to be posting what is called the Summer Score. And that is the way that I tally which teams are in a playoff spot after Memorial Day through the end of the year. I think before Memorial Day, it's silly to look at the standings. After Memorial Day, all right, a third of the season's gone by. Are you a playoff team or not? And the way it works is every team is awarded 1 point for every day they're in a playoff spot between Memorial Day and the end of June. 2 points if they're in a playoff spot in July. 3 points if they're in a playoff spot in August. And 4 points if they're a playoff spot in September to the end of the season. Plus an additional point if you're within a game of a playoff spot in September. The idea is it's more exciting for the fan base the longer you're in a pennant race. And the closer you get to the end, if you're in first place for a day in June, that's nice. But if you're first place and it's September, that could be really cool. And I keep track of it every single year. And so right now, the teams that are starting with a point in the Summer Score in the American League, you got the Yankees, who have the best record in the American League right now. They're only a half a game ahead of the Cleveland Guardians, who have just finished a 9-game winning streak. So the Yankees, Guardians, and Mariners are all division leaders, and they all get 1 point in the summer score, as do the wild card teams, which are right now the Baltimore Orioles, the Kansas City Royals, and the Minnesota Twins. So right now, the American League teams that are adding the summer score, the Yankees, the Guardians, the Mariners, the Orioles, the Royals, and the Twins. It's interesting in the National League. You have the three teams you knew were going to be in there are adding 1 to the initial day of the summer score. The Phillies, the Dodgers, and the Braves. The Brewers also have a spot because of their lead in the Central. And right now, tied and getting the 5th and 6th spots right now are the Giants, who went on a great run recently, and the Padres, who held on in the victory against the Marlins. So all of those fan bases got at least 1 point, at least one day where they got to feel like, hey, are we a contender this year? What the hey is going on? You saw the Nationals beat the Braves in their first day without Ronald Acuña Jr. They doubled up the Braves 8-4. The Red Sox got trounced by Cole Irvin and the Baltimore Orioles. A thriller in Minnesota, with the Royals scored 4 in the 9th inning, but came a run short. 6-5 was the final there. 2 NL Central teams that have dusted themselves off after a lousy start played each other. One of them had to lose, and it was the Cardinals, losing to the Reds 3-1. The Rockies, the Rockies have been beating a lot of good teams recently. They beat the Guardians and ended their big winning streak. The Blue Jays got what all teams look for in the schedule, and that is an appearance with the White Sox. And Bassett and company and Springer wound up being the White Sox 5-1. I mentioned the 8-4 Nats and Braves. The Brewers had a late rally as Council returned to Milwaukee, and the Brewers won 5-1 over the Cubs. The Giants doubled up Philadelphia 8-4. I mentioned the Padres and the Marlins as a pitcher's duel 2-1. Then the Mets and the Dodgers were rained out. And as of this recording, the Mariners and Astros are playing a 3-2. Jake Mastroianni of Locked On Braves is going to be on the show, and we're going to have a discussion about the Ronald Acuña Jr. injury and what it means. And we're going to talk about that forthwith. As a lot of you can tell, I'm a fashion plate. I wear the right things. I look good. I go in, I take a lot of time to get the right thing to wear. Like, for example, I'm going to record today. I'm going to put on a Cal State Fullerton polo shirt. But sometimes I need to have a little more style even than this. And you get that boost of confidence when you dress right and you have the right clothes on. They fit great and you look great. And that's why you got to check out Stitch Fix. Which Stitch Fix, you get a stylist. I'm not the kind of guy who gets a stylist. But your stylist understands your style, your size, and your budget. And they do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. Here's the deal. I give my stylist, I won't say their name, my size, I don't lie about it, my style, they can obviously see it, and my budget preferences, and I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. They send 5 just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations, pro styling advice. I keep what works, and I send the rest back. My stylist, I got a stylist, always sends the just right pieces and that they fit, it's on point. It's like they've got ESP. It's like they're Jedi. It's like they tell you will wear what I send you. I say, yes, I will wear what I send you. And I look good because they're stylists and I'm not. And if there's something I don't love, they don't do a Jedi mind trick and try to say, you do like it. No, you just send it back. Shipping, returns, exchange, they're always free. And the Stitch Fix makes it so easy. Look, I don't like to shop for clothes. I don't. And they go do it. And I get outfits that make me look great every time. Style that makes you feel as good as you look, and we all know how good I look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/MLB. Get $20 off your first fix. That's stitchfix.com/MLB for $20 off. stitchfix.com/MLB. Must redeem within 7 days of sign-up. Hey, where is your hub for getting your sports stories? It's time to make the switch to Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 streaming channel programmed for you to bring you the biggest stories in sports. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7 on the YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Well, as promised, Jake Mastroianni of Locked On Braves is joining us here in segment 2. Jake, it's been a while. It's thanks for coming on board. I wish it was for different circumstances. I feel like I should be saying my condolences. Tell us, first of all, I mean, what were your thoughts? I mean, I assume you're watching the game and everything. What were your thoughts when you saw what happened to Acuña?
I mean, I was worried. A guy who's had that, had an injury, obviously had some issues with the knees, and you see any player go down like that, I think in a non-contact injury who's, making a quick kind of pivot back to the base, you always kind of fear the worst. But, then after the game, he seemed pretty confident that it wasn't anything major, that he said, he said it didn't feel like the first time when he tore his ACL, and, it is on different knees,
Right.
So it's not the same one that he did last time, but, he said it didn't feel like that. He didn't hear anything pop. So he just assumed it was probably maybe a hyperextension, which he's done before. As well. So, we were all thinking maybe he's going to be out a month or so. I was actually in the middle of recording a live podcast, and about 5 minutes in, and the news broke Sunday night. And again, we wouldn't think we were going to get anything until Monday. So I was shocked when I first heard it, because again, we were all kind of, hoping optimistically that, maybe he's just sitting out a month or two, and with the slow start to the season that he had, that maybe, that could potentially be a good thing, kind of allow him to reset, get that knee healthy. He had a little bit of scare in spring training that slowed him down. So maybe that was kind of carrying over into the season. And then you get that, and it's just worse news. And first of all, after hearing it, your heart just breaks for the guy, because nobody loves baseball more than Ronald Acuña Jr. You don't see MVPs after the season he had then go and play winter ball, and wanted to play even more. And it's just, he loves the sport. He loves baseball. And for somebody like myself who loves baseball, I love him for that. Somebody he would play every day if he could, all year long. So for this to be taken away from him again, a second time for a major injury, my immediate reaction after just the shock was, man, I hate it for him.
Well, and I said on the previous episode of Locked On MLB, I'm not even an Atlanta Braves fan. I'm not a Braves fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I love Acuña because beyond the fact that obviously he's an astonishingly talented ball player and great talents up and down, can do so many different things, he's just fun. He's fun to watch. He's one of the reasons why baseball needs to have players who don't just tick all the boxes for the stats, which he certainly did last year. Lest we forget, if you go to baseballreference.com, the single greatest website in the history of the planet Earth, his line for 2023 is almost entirely bold or bold italicized, which means he led the league at plate appearances, at bats, runs, scored, hits, stolen bases, caught stealing, on base percentage, OPS, OPS plus, OPS minus, OPS divided, and total bases. And I'm sure there's all sorts of stats that I couldn't tell you how they're figured out for $10 million that he also led the league. And he was a 40-70 player, but plays the game with such enthusiasm and with such a sense of fun that he was kind of this I don't want to say flamboyant, but he reminds you that the game was fun. And that, yeah. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when Ken Griffey Jr. came up in '89, and I saw his whole career, and it was eerily similar. I mean, they're not exactly similar players. They are, multi-tool players, but you watched him because he's great. He knows he's great, and he's having fun being great. And to take that away after only 1/3 of the season is just such a kick to the fruit stand that you just want to dust yourself off and move on, but it just stinks.
It does. I mean, and that's, it's obviously the feeling for Braves fans for many reasons, just because, it's your favorite player on your favorite team. And it's obviously a player that's going to help you achieve your goals. But again, kind of looking even more broadly than that, like you said, just from a baseball standpoint, I mean, this is a guy I said coming into the year, Major League Baseball needs to do everything they can to market this guy because he wants it. He wants the spotlight. He wants to be there. We talk about Mike Trout. And look, it's his own decision, but, he didn't necessarily want to be that poster guy for Major League Baseball. Ronald would. I think he would step into that role. I know there's a language barrier there, which he had, done better at that. But either way, I mean, this is, look, when my nephew sits down to watch a Braves game, he asks me, when's Ronald coming up? Has Ronald come up yet? What has Ronald done? That's kids across America that want to see what Ronald Acuña Jr. does. Because last year in particular, it was can't miss. When he comes up to the plate, you have to watch Ronald hit because you just don't know what is he going to do. Is he going to hit a 450-foot bomb? Is he going to get on base and steal second, steal third? What is he going to do? And it's just that type of exciting player. But again, kind of bringing it back to what we were talking about, it's the fact that he does it with such joy. And sometimes I can rub people the wrong way. I think we're past that at this point.
Who cares?
Again, it's just he loves the game. You can read his article, and if you have not, I know I'm speaking to a wider fan base here, so maybe some of you haven't. He wrote a great article for the Players Tribune, kind of talking about where he's coming from, why he loves the game so much. Do yourself a favor and go read that, because it's going to put you inside the head of Ronald Acuña Jr. and just how much he loves this game that you love. He loves it, and he wants to play it every day. And now it's been taken away from him. And now you look, 2020 COVID season, 2021, he tore his ACL, was out half the year. 2022, he was working his way back from that. 2023, one of the greatest seasons I've ever seen. And now here we are, 2024, not even half the season. And now we'll see what he looks like, in 2025 and going forward. So it's just devastating from a fan perspective. One of the greatest talents that I've seen. And he's had all these injuries that are really just kind of slowing him down.
First of all, I want to say one thing about the language barrier. I know we're not supposed to talk about Sammy Sosa anymore, but when he was exploding on the scene and also was willing to take the spotlight that Mark McGwire was not willing to take, the entire country fell in love with the guy and couldn't stop watching him. And same thing, with the Red Sox, with David Ortiz. The fact of the matter is, I didn't cheer for Sammy Sosa, Ortiz, or Acuña, or Ichiro for that matter, because I thought they were great, powerful speakers and great orators. I mean, we're there. I mean, I wanted to see them play and see what they do, and it sort of goes beyond the sensation of what they say in the interviews. Who cares? Who cares? And I think that you see the enthusiasm and the fact that he can, it's the Reggie Jackson line of, it's not bragging if you can back it up. And he, the season he had last year was tremendous. But I do remember one thing. I'm doing a little video project right now involving the final outs of the World Series. And when the Braves won the World Series in 2021 in Houston, one of the first people to come running out of that dugout was Ronald Acuña Jr., who wasn't even on the roster because of the injury. This is a guy who loves being an Atlanta Brave, loves winning with his team. And while I can't claim to be a Brave fan by any stretch of the imagination, if they do make it back to the World Series, and this looks like a team that definitely has a shot at it, as good a shot as the Phillies did last year, and as good a shot as the Phillies 2 years ago, or Arizona last year, or hell, the Braves a couple of years before that, if they made it back in, one of the things I thought was, well, it would be good to see Acuña on, I know he got a World Series ring for his troubles, but you know what I mean, to actually play in the World Series and play at that high level.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as a Braves fan and somebody who covers the Braves for Locked On Braves, I want to see him get back there. But if they do, look, it's going to be a little painful for Ronald to have to sit there and watch it again. And he talked about that in that article that I referenced, the fact that, he was excited, as you mentioned. He certainly was happy for the guys. And look, it was an 88-win team. They needed every win, and Ronald was their best player for half that season. They don't get there without him. So, he was part of that team, just not there in the postseason.
Right.
But he talked about the fact, he wasn't there in the end. And while he was happy, it still, was a little bit painful for him to not be able to be out there with the guys playing, just because he wants to play so much. He wants those big moments. He wants to have those feelings and be on that big stage. So as much as I want the Braves to get back there, really would hate it if they do it again and Ronald's not there to be able to be a part of it.
Well, when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the aftermath and seeing how the Braves could make a move right now that could emulate what they did before. Hey, let's talk about our friends from Game Time. Now, I know, Jake, how many ball games do you think you actually get to a year?
Usually now about 5 or so.
Yeah, I've already been to one. I know I'm going to go to a couple of more. I know going to see games in Oakland, not the hardest ticket to get a hold of, but if you want to go to a game at Oracle Park with the Giants, or if you want to go down the street and see the Dodgers, you know what? You need everything in the palm of your hand to make that decision right. And let me tell you, what you should use is Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app, they actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. So if you're in Oakland thinking, should I go? Should I not go? Whoa! That's a good deal. They got killer last-minute deals. They got all-in prices. They get views from the seats and the lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. Now, I have my favorite places to sit. Like if I'm, especially either at Dodger Stadium or in Oakland, I like to sit not in the top deck, not field level. I like that second deck where you're a little bit higher up, but you're not in the nosebleeds. I like to be behind home plate, but a little bit up the first base line. Basically, that's the view I like, especially at Dodger Stadium. It's absolutely gorgeous. So with Game Time, you have the seat views, panoramic seat view. And you could say, oh, right, this is what I want. This is how it is. But sometimes it's a little more packed, a little harder to find that specific seat. So do what you do, use the zone deals. You say, this is the zone I want. Give me the best deal. And said, boom, Sully, that one. Boom, take a look. Looks good. Then I go in, pay it. It's all in prices. No hidden fees. No, oh, you have a back of the chair fee we need to put on. Otherwise, you'll get a back of a chair. You have a cup holder fee. None of that. None of that. Got the lowest price guarantee, and Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you can find a better deal elsewhere. And their purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Jake, I don't think you realize what you need to do. You need to download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, they always do. Again, create an account, redeem the code. They asked me to spell it out for you. LOCKEDMLB for $20 off. Yes, that's how you spell MLB. It's spelled MLB. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices. Do you know what they are? I'll tell you what they are. They're guaranteed. This is a reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on the YouTubes, and now it's available on the Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7 and sometimes even more, covering the top sports stories of the day. With the local extras of Locked On, our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channel app. Jake Mastroianni is here from Locked On Braves, and we all know the last time a horrible injury like this happened to Ronald Acuña Jr., it so devastated the Braves that they won the World Series. Now, I'm not saying this is a good habit to get into, but you and I have talked about this. The great lesson the Braves taught us when they lost their whole outfield was they made sure there was a major leaguer at every position. They weren't going to replace everybody, but they made sure that it wasn't a hole, which brings us to what they need to do now. And now they have a DH, which they didn't have in 2021. Now, I made a suggestion the other day that they should immediately, before I finish saying the sentence, trade for Tommy Pham. Not that I think Tommy Pham is Ronald Acuña Jr., but he's a major leaguer. And that would mean you would have a major leaguer in the outfield in his stead. But there may be a better move to do, and maybe there's a move in their farm that I'm not thinking about. Jake, you've forgotten more about the Braves than I'll ever know. What should they do?
Yeah, well, I mean, for now, I think they're going to let it ride out with Jared Kelenic and Adam Duvall. I mean, Duvall was the move they made before they knew that they needed to make this move. They got him at the end of towards the end of spring training for 1 year, $3 million. A guy that's been there, one of the guys they brought in that 2021 season to help him get it done. So they're obviously very comfortable with him. And I think for now, they're probably just going to ride it out with those two guys until maybe you get closer to the deadline and then see if you need to make a move at that point. Jared Kelenic's obviously still a huge question mark right now for the Braves. Don't know what he's going to be or look like. They've been platooning him with Duvall this entire time. And now you're going to see those guys getting everyday at bats. So you'll get a good look at them. Nothing really in the minor league system. You have Forrest Wall, who's kind of a journeyman at this point, but he's been really good at AAA. JP Martinez, the guy they called up, he has some good speed. Can be a good speed threat. He's been good at AAA. So there's nothing really, prospect wise that is ready to fill in there. So I would not be surprised, even if Kelenic and Duvall look okay, you got to create that depth. Remember in 2021, they didn't just get Duvall. They got Jock Peterson. They got Eddie Rosario. They got Jorge Soler. They just brought in a bunch of depth and hope that something hit. And luckily all three of them or all four of them did, leading to that World Series. But I wouldn't be surprised they still make a move for a right-handed outfield bat at some point during the season. But I don't think there's necessarily panic to go out and do anything right now.
Well, I didn't say the panic, but I think that one of the moves that you just mentioned, the Soler, the Rosario, Jock Peterson, none of those made headlines. None of those, were like, oh my God, do you know where you were and what you were doing when they traded for Eddie Rosario? When they traded Pablo Sandoval, who they were about to put on waivers anyway. So it was basically they were trading each other's lunch. It was like trading Doritos for Fritos on the in the playground, and it just turned out that Fritos won the National League Championship Series MVP, and Sandoval bought a new belt. But you brought up Kelenic, and I think Kelenic is interesting for this reason. It seems like Kelenic has been playing so long that he was teammates with Ronald Acuña Jr. However, he's still only 24 years old. We forget the fact he's going to be 25 next month. But, I mean, he's been a Mets prospect for so long, and it didn't really work out. He had 3 disappointing seasons in Seattle, and Atlanta took a flyer on him, and he's been okay. He's been average, since coming to Atlanta. But you wonder if you have someone like that who is young, who no longer has the pressure of what was happening in Seattle, and saying, hey, you're going to get some at-bats. You're going to get some playing time now. I wonder what are the moments that someone can take advantage of. Hey, I've been given a shot here. I've been a shot here on a team which is going to make the postseason. And I often wonder about what players are late bloomers. And there's a reason why when Kelenic was originally drafted by the New York Mets, number 6 overall in the 2018 draft, it'd be interesting to see if this is his moment to kind of blossom. I got my eye on him.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what he can do, because this is a guy. They made a lot of moves. You may remember in the offseason, they were making a move every other day, moving around money, and they took on a lot of money to get a Jared Kelenic. So I believe they had to have seen something in him they thought they could fix and change to become a good hitter. Now, is that going to happen right away? No, obviously, results haven't been great so far, hovering around a 700 OPS, a little below that, but he's had some moments here or there. The defense has been incredible. I mean, I think he can win a Gold Glove out there in left field, what he's done this year.
Right.
So that's been a nice surprise, but he is somebody now that you give him every day at bats, see what you can do, and can the changes that they've made with him, turn him into that guy that a lot of people thought he could be. So again, you hate to lose somebody like Acuña, but when that happens, it's going to open up a door for somebody else. And Kelenic, as you mentioned, still a young player, a guy who's had a lot of prospect pedigree, somebody who expects a lot of himself. He's a very hard worker. He wants to be great. He's very hard on himself. And again, this could be a chance for him to really show and step up that maybe he is that guy for the future for the Braves.
All right. Now, the Braves, obviously, right now, this is, as I mentioned in the first segment of the show, this is when you can actually start to look at standings. This is the first time of the year you could look at the standings and not feel foolish. And as of this recording, the Braves are a playoff team by 4 games. I think in reality, there are 3 or 4 elite teams in the National League and a bunch of teams that are going to finish around 500. And I think even with Acuña's injury, the Braves are in that group. Now, the Phillies right now, I picked, all full disclosure, I picked the Phillies to win the division. I actually picked the Phillies to win the World Series this year. And so far, I don't feel dumb with that pick the way that they've been playing. But the Braves have been a resilient team. And I also think they have one of the most underappreciated managers in baseball. I think Snitker, who I said, who the hell is Snitker? Well, he's a baseball lifer who's taken advantage of his shot to manage in the big leagues. And we've seen him right the ship before with injuries. And I think they have enough there that is, I think they're, even with an Acuña injury, I don't think this is going to threaten their chance to make the postseason.
No, it's crazy to think about. Look, the Braves lost Spencer Strider basically beginning of the year. He had 2 starts, but really wasn't himself, and then obviously was gone for the year. And now Acuña hasn't been right all year, and now he's gone for the rest of the season. And it's a team that I think's really been surviving a lot. They've gone 2 weeks without Ozzie Albies. They've gone the last 2 weeks without Austin Riley. They haven't had Sean Murphy since opening day. I know every team is dealing with injuries, but the Braves have had some pretty significant ones. You're talking about the NL Cy Young favorite, the NL MVP favorite coming into the year. Both of those guys are now gone. I don't think there's many teams that could lose both of those guys, and you could say nothing really changes. And that should be true. This Braves team still has enough talent. They have Max Fried. Chris Sale is having an amazing year. Ronaldo Lopez has turned out to be a fantastic signing. Charlie Morton struggled here a bit as of late, but if that's your number 4, you're doing pretty good. You still
he's got a great playoff pedigree. He's not someone you worry about. He's going to do fine.
The offense has been struggling, and that's crazy to say. That's been one of the biggest concerns for the Braves so far. They've been really bad the last month, but those guys are going to get going. Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley, like I said, just came back. Sean Murphy just came back. He's been gone since opening day. Marcell Ozuna has been on fire all year long. So it's still a really good lineup. It's been a good bullpen. Again, it's crazy to say you lose Strider and Acuña, but nothing changes for this Braves team. The goals are still the same, and they're still within reach.
I'll tell you something. As a Red Sox fan, I've been telling my listeners who are also Red Sox fans, I don't hear anyone complaining because we all thought Sale was washed up. He pitched between 2019 and 2023, he pitched 11 games. And then last year, he started 20 games, but we all looked at it and said, oh, he's done. And then they got Von Grisham and said, hey, they got a young second baseman. And then none of us thought he was going to turn around and have the first third of the season that he's had. This is the best. He's off to his best since winning the World Series. I haven't seen a pitch like this. And so, I mean, having that happen with your team, it helps you absorb some of the losses. And when you sort of, in a trade that cost you someone who probably wouldn't be starting right now, you have a guy who will probably start the All-Star game.
Yeah, it's been huge for the Braves. I mean, I don't know where they'd be without the contributions they've gotten from Chris Sale. So, look, it's still the question, can he stay healthy? And that's going to be the big key. And it's what we don't know. But right now he is, and he looks like the old Chris Sale. I mean, he's a top 5 in Cy Young odds right now on FanDuel, one of the great sponsors of this podcast as well. So, I mean, he is right there in the mix. He's probably going to win May Pitcher of the Month. He has been absolutely huge for the Braves.
All right, Jake. Well, hey, thanks so much for hopping on. Give us a prediction. Do you think they're going to win the division, or think they're going to be a wild card?
I think they're going to be a wild card. Look, it's a lot to overcome. And at this point, after what the Braves have been through the last 2 years, I don't, as long as they get the top wild card spot, and I think they will, it doesn't really matter to me as much anymore with the postseason format. So I'm perfectly fine with that. Would not surprise me. This Braves team usually takes off around June anyway. So it would not be surprising to me if they came back and won the division. But the Phillies are a really good team, and they've gotten off to a really hot start. It's going to be hard to overcome.
All right. Well, hey, let's do the trivia question for today. We'll make it Braves-oriented. Don't you answer it, Jake, here. The Braves under Bobby Cox made the postseason every single time they played one. I got to phrase it like that because of the strike between 1991 and 2005. Lots of superstars played on that team, but only one. In fact, this person's the only Atlanta Brave player, period, to hit a walk-off playoff home run. Who was it? Put down that's your trivia question. Put down the answer here on YouTube or at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Talking about the Braves and will they recover from the Acuña injury and party like it's 2021. He's Jake Mastroianni. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.